Hello there, thank you for stopping by. I'm doing a book review today for a very disturbing book that was written all the way back in 1906 by an author called Leonid Andreyev. I do hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The book is called Lazarus, or it could also be described as a short story. This is a translation. Leonid Andreyev is, or was, from Russia, I believe. He was either French or Russian. I think he was Russian. And this story first appeared in English in Weird Tales magazine, all the way back in 1927, which is still a long time ago. It's all about the main character called Lazarus, who has been dead for 3 whole days, but then mysteriously rises up from his grave and starts interacting with society again. He's described as big, bloated, with blue and white skin, eyes like sunken pits, and his entire life force has been drained. He has seen beyond the grave. He has stared death in the face, and he proceeds to walk around ancient Rome, speaking to people, and whoever actually looks into this man's eyes has the life force drained out of them as well. If anybody looks into his eyes, they just suddenly lose the will to live, and they become a mere shell of their former self. There are 3 notable people in the story who actually look straight into his eyes. There are 2 young lovers sitting on a wall in ancient Rome. They make the mistake of having a conversation with Lazarus, looking into his eyes, and it's explained that they go on to live the rest of their lives together as they would have done, but their kind of lust for life was never the same again, and their zeal and their passion it never reached the same peak as it did before. And he actually meets the emperor of Rome. He speaks to the emperor in his temple or his house, and not even the emperor can kind of resist this life-draining force that Lazarus holds within him. But the most notable one for me is actually a sculptor in the story. An artist and a sculptor meets Lazarus just out of curiosity, and after looking in his cold, lifeless eyes, he just drains away, and from that moment on, all of the artwork that he creates is hideous and ugly. It's described that after meeting Lazarus, he creates his work of art, and it's described as this ugly, hideous blob. This ugly, like, it looks like a big blob of dirt, but underneath it there's a beautiful, delicate butterfly dangling from below. This is quite a clever part of the story, because I think it can be interpreted as the ugly blob represents life and existence, meaning for the most part life is hideous and torture, but now and again you get a little moments of beauty within it, and that's represented by the butterfly underneath. Other people interpret that differently, but that's my interpretation of that part. It's a good part of the story. Lazarus is described as spending hours a day out in the hot, blazing sun, staring directly at the sun. But his core is so cold that he remains cold. Not even the midday sun can warm Lazarus. He seldom talks, but when he does talk, he describes the black infinity beyond the grave, the endless void of space, and the sheer nothingness that's out there in the black sky beyond. This story struck me because it could be described as pessimistic, and it's got themes of like antinatalism in it. And those of you might know this already. I read The Conspiracy Against the Human Race by Thomas Ligotti, and I read another book, Better Never to Have Been. They're two of my most popular videos, and they're all about antinatalism and pessimism. People who like that kind of stuff will love this story, Lazarus. That's who I recommend this story to. People who would describe themselves as antinatalists, like that. It was also quite a humbling experience for me reading this story, because I wrote a short story in 2020, or it was published in one of my books in 2020, At the Edge of Insanity. The story is called The Soul Destroyer, and it's all about somebody who witnesses something so terrible that it sends them insane, and everybody who stares into their eyes loses the will to live. And so when I read this story, I suddenly realised that somebody had written my story about 120 years before I did. So it's quite a humbling experience in that way. Apparently it might be based on a Bible story. I don't really care about that, but if you want to research that side of it, go ahead. I think it might be. The translation I read was pretty easy to read, given the age of the story. I think there are two translations for this floating about online. I highly recommend it. I've read it twice now, and it's a very disturbing story, and I enjoyed it very much. So there you go, Lazarus by Leonid Andreev, if that's how you say his name. If you like dark stories, if you like dark stuff, give it a read. It's well worth your time and attention. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back in another couple of weeks or so with another book review. In the meantime, try to have a great day on this eerie, uncanny, chilling rock we call Earth. Goodbye.